Hey, how
Hi.
are ya? It's Micah Lawrence and Christy here again, just having a conversation. Um, Gosh, we always get in these like deep rabbit holes right before we're like, oh, we should just share some of this. So that was such a good conversation about how everyone, we're sort of waking up to this idea that um what we really want out of life, is freedom and to just kind of be doing our deeper purpose and living life in a very different way, yet it's still very much out in the world. It's a very matrix world of like a 9 to 5, and you gotta, or if you're an entrepreneur, even we were talking about how all the formulas are out there to create this funnel and or use this sales flow, or build your 12 steps of your business this way, right, in order to get there.
Or
And
relationships
yet
as well.
it it doesn't work for most people. I mean, like 99% of people, whatever that formula is just not going to work for them. And then I think, even in the spiritual community, because I'm connected to that, is we're then like going, well, what's the new grids we can create, right? What's the new entrepreneurial grids that we can create for business? And that in itself is also like just going back into them. I mean, and we can do that. We can create our own, stuff, but back into the mind, right?
And also it creates other cults, which is where you've got a guru, the guru cult, where
Yes.
somebody else knows more than you. And
Yeah.
already there's another trap going on there, because ultimately, you think, well, if I act like the guru, then somehow, I'm going to make it just like the guru,
Yeah.
or that the guru's got something that I don't have.
Right. Well, or if you're the business person, then somehow you have to become the guru,
Yeah,
right? That can sell the thing that other people can do. It's like
yeah,
that. It's even the hero's journey, right? It's
yeah,
like people use that as their business model. Like, oh, what's the journey that you've been through and how did you get there? And now create a program that you sell to other people so they can do the same thing.
yeah, exactly. And it can be, and it's very much appealing to the mind, because the thing is, everyone is waking up and we all realize there is a better way of living life. We don't have to be wage slaves. We don't have to live in kind of very sort of say karmic relationships where it's very limited. There's no soulmate involvement. So we in our hearts, we know now that we want the best out of life, and it's possible to live life freely and joyfully. But the missing piece is, how do we get there? What is the formula? And what we were saying earlier on is that the mind is trying to fix the problem that the mind has created in the first place, and so what I understand to be the right formula, let's call it formula, is that it's a non-formula, which is that it's right in front of you right now, this minute. The formula is already happening to you, or for you, let's put it.
Yeah.
But the reason we're not aligned to that formula, which is called life, okay, is because our minds are resisting. And the reason it's resisting everything, it's resisting you and it's resisting life, because it's what I call the mincing machine, where it's got to assess everything and decide, is that good or is that bad? So we're always running away from pain and running towards pleasure, because we've decided in our book and our life manual, this is the things that have to happen. So something that is not known by the mind is the fact that the true root of suffering is not life doing something to us, but it's the resistance to that. So if you talk about stress, life is doing its thing. You're stuck in traffic, you're meant to get somewhere, and you're feeling stressed out. Well, that's because you're saying it's not okay to get stuck in traffic,
Right.
But if you come into your direct sensory perception, and the key to that is called surrender, right? Surrender to the moment. Surrender to the moment is what's not to like about that. I'm sitting here in the traffic. I've got a moment to myself. I can relax. What is there not to like, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And life has got it, not you. Life has got it. Whatever's
Mm-hmm.
meant to happen is meant to happen. Now we can know that with our minds, and I'm sure a lot of people do surrender work, but you've actually got to really be invested in it wholeheartedly, which is your heart's got to be in it, your body's got to be in it, every part of you has got to be in it. And only
Mm-hmm.
then will you see the gift that that situation has brought to you.
Mm-hmm.
So even the most unpleasant things, there is a gift behind that, and that's how radical this belief or this understanding is. And it's only if you read sometimes people's autobiographies where they've changed their lives around in quite a big way, usually one of the things that happens is something very almost devastating, maybe unexpected. And because every moment we have that choice whether or not to say it's wrong and therefore create a victimhood out of it, or surrender to it and see the gift in that. Sometimes how extreme life can get, it doesn't mean we all have to have unpleasant experiences, but it's just trying to illustrate the point that sometimes when life brings something to you that the mind think is wrong, it's because it's asking us to transfigure ourselves in a different way and actually just allow that moment, that experience to offer something to us that if we embody, we start to reconnect with an aspect of ourselves that we've forgotten about, that the mind has forgotten, because the mind is always resisting, and it resists aspects of ourselves. When we want to come whole and complete to ourselves, we start to allow that part of us to come on board again. And that is part of the missing link in our formula to then help us to find the right way to the path. The bad news is we don't know where the destiny is going to. That's right. The history of life. But we can start to, when we start to go down that path of surrender, we start to recognize that your life goes from strength to strength and gives you more and more joy and delight along the way, because it's more and more in alignment with what your heart actually wants. You know, and that's been both our experiences, I think, you know, when we stop needing to know what the buttons are and the levers are, and actually just start to surrender, then as if by magic, life just gets easier, life just gets more joyful, life gets more connecting in some ways, you know. And that's what we all want fundamentally, is just to live in peace, joy, passion and desire and freedom, you know, and that's all we want.
And the mind has that turned around to think that we have to do all of these things to get to this certain place to finally have those things.
To go on holiday in the Caribbean kind of thing at the end. Have the mansion, have the holiday, but along the way it's like, you know,
you have to suffer to get there. Yeah.
Exactly. And so this is a radical thing, and we'll do an example because I know that this is put out there, surrender, but it has to be radically done. So maybe we can do that with you, and you can maybe think of an unpleasant experience that you might have had where your mind says this is really not okay and I'm going to have to fix this situation, and that's where they're suffering from. And then we can see how it transforms once you surrender to it. So see what you can come up with.
In my own mind, you want me to just come up with it in my own mind?
Just like a memory of something where you didn't enjoy something and your mind says it's really not okay to be in the situation.
Okay, I've got something.
So what was the situation that you really didn't think was okay?
I was in a situation with people where I feel stuck in a role of having to take care of everything. And it's feeling not okay that that they're not willing to sort of like participate.
Yes. So you're having to do all the heavy lifting, and they're around waiting to be waited on or something.
Yeah.
So imagine you're in that situation where you know, everyone's just sitting around doing nothing, and you are probably feeling resentful or something because it's like
feeling kind of like a slave.
Yeah, slave, you know. So when you start to embody that slave feeling, how does that make you feel when you're having to do everything?
I'm feeling very stressed.
Stressed. So really feel into that stress. Your body's communicating that to you. You know, that the body's carrying that stress. So when you feel that stress, now, how do you, when you fully feel it in your body, how does that make you feel you want to react in that situation?
Well, it's kind of like what we were just saying, where I just want to get everything done so I can finally just go sit and relax by myself.
So cut out the middleman. Who's saying that you have to get everything done?
Yeah, there's just like a part of me that's,
Yeah.
you know, grew up doing that just keeps wanting me to do it. Yeah.
So that's your program behavior. Your program behavior is saying, I'm going to get everything done. So now you're going into your sensory perception and realizing this is exhausting me. It's making me stressed out. So what's the best thing you could do for yourself when you're exhausted and stressed out?
Rest.
Rest. So just see yourself resting, just like everyone else.
Yeah.
And being that restful person.
Yeah.
Because you're now doing you unconditionally. So what would happen? Imagine you're now resting and the jobs aren't done. So what happens now in that new situation where everyone else is resting, you're resting?
I mean, things might not get done, and
So does it matter?
Not really. No. No.
Everyone's just sitting around doing nothing. That's okay.
Yeah.
If somebody wants to get a beer or wants to do something,
yeah,
they'll have to get up themselves.
Right.
Oh dear, what a tragedy. You see what I'm saying? Because the intelligence of your sensory perception, if you surrender to it, far more intelligent than anything that this is a super conscious self saying, what happens if you are being fully embody what that situation's bringing about, you then know it becomes a no-brainer. I'm going to rest. Sorry, I'm going to rest. See, most people in my practice, because I deal with people with physical problems, is they spend their whole lifetimes doing stuff like that and then wondering why they've got ME or wondering why they've got chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia. It's because their body, they have not gone into their sensory perception and not listened to that guidance that was there the whole time saying, blooming well, stop. Mind is going, what will the neighbours say? What will, you know? But ultimately, what we don't realise is that if we do stop, somebody else is going to do it, you know, and that's the unexpected surprise, you know, that because we've created a space for somebody else to do it, you know. So it's like when we immerse ourselves and surrender ourselves to the moment and let the moment do whatever it wants to do to us, it guides us into the right action. And action is walking on your path. It's a path that's going to bring you the best happiness possible. But you don't know what's at the other end. But that happiness will be far deeper than anything that a villa or a holiday could give you. It will be something so unique for you, that is so intimately unique for you, that, you know, it's almost like as if all your dreams came true. Just that's what I know for sure that will happen at the end of that journey, as long as we surrender. you know, while the mind is still in control and thinks it knows better and starts to resist all the bad bits. We're never ever going to get to that place, you know. And there's something I mentioned before, there's this thing called temptation, which is if you you know, sort of do the thing that doesn't feel right, or do the thing that isn't in your truth, for example, isn't for you, then you will somehow get something better at the end of it.
Yeah.
But that is just a fool's errand, and it's just the booby, you'll get the booby prize at the end of it, you know. So the direct moment will always show you what actually needs to happen, you know.
That's
yeah
really kind of what we've all been sold on some level, is just this idea of you sacrifice this to get that, you know, like you just, there's a sacrifice to get something else, but in that it's always steeped in lack, right? It's always created out of lack. And what I noticed about like my own example that we went into is that you know, being, you know, been coaching for a long time now, what I know from where I started at when I first started coaching 15 years ago, you know, we would have coached people through that exact same thing of like, okay, you're overdoing for people and you're doing all that. So now we're going to go into your mind and we're going to create a new set of rules that you're going to start doing. And you're from your mind, like it would be from a mental place, you know, to just like start like creating these boundaries and like saying all, you know, like stop doing this and start doing that and all of that. And it's not that can't be like somewhat of a step in the right direction, like in some ways, but it's very different from, because it's almost like the other side of the coin. But now you're just going to be the other side of the coin.
Exactly, that's exactly right, because it's what I call rearranging the furniture on the Titanic. The whole thing doesn't bloody work, you know. Your mind just trying to find another formula, but ultimately the object of the exercise is to manage the situation and manage the outcomes.
Right.
The bad news is that we don't get to say what the outcomes are. You just mean it's like that, and that's what surrender in a sense is all about. But what we get from that is so much better than anything that you know, rearranging so the outcomes become marginally less bad. But if you think about how exhausting that is to keep telling other people how they need to behave, you know, it's like, yes, that'll work for a while, but then it's not working, you know. And you're forcing the situation again, you're forcing life. And life is already doing what it's doing. I remember one of the first blogs I ever wrote years ago is saying this again. I was picking up on language that my clients are talking about, and they say, well, I've got this problem and I think it's because I was suffering a lot of stress, right? But they were talking as if stress was an entity outside them, you know, as if like there's a thing called Mr. Stress
happening to them.
It's happening to me. And what people don't realize, and it's again, the mind is making it into an object, but really stress is just the effect of natural life doing this. It's going into a natural flow, which is ultimately like the oneness of life doing its dance, and then the mind going, yeah, but it shouldn't be like this. I've got a whole manual about why it should be like this. Now, again, seen from the mind, you think, well, that means I have to allow people to do bad things to me. But the point is that there is an intelligence inside you and inside life that protects you from anything bad happening to you. In the same way, you running around thinking, oh, if I serve all my friends and family and at the expense of my own, you know, happiness and being exhausted, that somehow my family and the people around me will protect me because that's the deal, you know. But really you're hurting yourself in the process, you know. And at some point you could get ill or something, you know. So we think we're protecting ourselves, but it's from a very limited perspective, you know. So again, we have to recognize that there is something that is protecting us. And again, we talk about the life force is already protecting us. It's our protector. Can't be known by the mind, though. That's the thing. The mind won't agree with this, you know. So it's almost like you have to start it very slowly and just start to surrender in every moment. And that's what I encourage our listeners maybe to do, is in every moment just surrender into it and feel into it, and you start to get a new experience that your mind won't let you feel. It's a feeling state, you know. I was talking a bit about when I used to fear people getting angry, but if I kind of feel into what that feels like to be shouted at or something, it's like a very stimulating, very alive feeling, and you start to allow those feelings just to pervade you. And either your mind will, your feeling state will say, this is really exciting, or it will say, and you start to just pay attention in the moment, or you feel, this is the bit where I remove myself. Physically remove myself. I don't argue with that person, I just physically remove myself. But the sensation will guide you into exactly the right movement for you, the right action for you, you know, rather than trying to palliate the person, try and stop them from being angry. You just go into the direct experience, and then you know what to do, which is none of that, you know.
And if you had been using the whole, like, somebody was helping you change your mindset around that, then you would have been in your mind trying to like pull one of these formulas to figure out what to do in the moment, which might not be what the moment actually you were feeling in the moment.
So it's trusting that when you surrender, the solution will be profound. And again, this is a homeopathic idea, which is with every problem, the seed of the solution is inherent within it. You know, this unity consciousness where the problem and the solution become one. So as soon as you surrender to the problem, the solution will also, the key will also be there, you know. And that's such a radical, again, a radical understanding. But when we fully live in that truth, it all becomes incredibly easy after a while, you know. So again, we start off small, we start off just living our life moment to moment in that way. And
I've found the more that I've lived that part of it, you know, that the problem and the solution is within the problem, and it's in the absolute unconditional acceptance and awareness of the moment. I've also discovered, like we were talking about, even like with business or creation or stuff that we're doing in the world, like that within and inherent within every desire is the means for that desire to come to form. And so I think the more that we can sort of like really have moments of trusting those two things, is how we navigate forward into this new paradigm of living where everyone's free.
It has to be built up, doesn't it? You know, we start off small, so it's not like you've got to suddenly change your whole life, but you start up small, and more you start to feel this is so much easier, you know. And actually you start to really fall in love with life, because life is already providing the solution for you, you know. And it's this new relationship we have with life, which is our heart opens to life rather than shuts it. And when our hearts are open, we become more fully alive, and we recognize this is our life. The current moment is our life. We are. This is where we are in this present moment. This is our life. And that's how we open our hearts again, which is going to give us everything that we ever wanted, you know. So that's really, you know, good. So I do encourage everyone to try it out for themselves and leave comments below if you what you discover. Great. Awesome. Lovely. Great. Well, it's lovely to talk to you, Christy.
Always is. So, until next time.
All right, take care.